Good morning,
Joshua,
Sean Hogue. How we
how
doing,
are
buddy?
you? Oh,
Uh,
just another day in the quarantine life.
yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Welcome to Caffeinated Q&A. We're on episode 6 now. It seems like we've been doing this for a while, but we're on episode 6. So, um, good. I see you. I see you eager to jump in there. We're
uh,
gonna hold off on.
I just need the
Uh,
caffeine, honestly.
just go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, so
So, go ahead.
I don't know. It's been a morning already. Um, I went straight for the hard stuff this morning. I whipped out that English breakfast tea. Said we're just going straight for the real strong black tea, and so that's what we're drinking this morning.
Nice. I'll be honest with you. I'm just looking for caffeine this morning, so I'm drinking whatever my wife prepared last night, and it is delicious.
Perfect.
Um,
Yeah.
so Sean, couple things. One, I forgot this last week, so I'm not forgetting it this week. Guys, if you want to get the reminder emails about the show every Tuesday and Friday, 9 a.m., we'll send one email a week. Monday morning, go to ghostcreative.com/live, sign up. You'll get all the past show, the notes, the shows that are coming up. And I did not forget to remind you this week. So next thing is, again, this is a Q&A show. That stands for questions and answers. We rely on you guys for the questions. There are no dumb questions. Ask us what's on your mind, what you're concerned about. Question free for all questions, guys. Ask us questions, okay? And so I'm super excited today because we have a guest on the show, and this is our first guest. And we have Rae Jean Catrabone from SandCille Spa with us. All right. Good morning, Rae.
Morning.
So I know Rae because I had the opportunity to work with her a few years ago. And part of the reason I wanted to have her on the show was because in my opinion, and I didn't say this to Rae before the show, so just so you know, I have a lot of respect for Rae in terms of understanding how business works and understanding how marketing and advertising works. I think she's been doing a great job with it. The other thing is, Rae, and I'll let her talk about SandCille here in a minute, but she runs a brick and mortar store. So she's dealing with a lot of the struggles that you guys are dealing with as well, in terms of how do you run your business through a pandemic when the government comes and says, hey, by the way, you can't let people into your establishment. So good morning, Rae.
Hi, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
Could you tell us
I
a
just
little
want
bit?
to tell you I'm drinking.
Yeah.
I have espresso roast from Brew Haha. One of my neighbors down in the plaza, they just reopened their doors after they closed down for like a week and repainted, and they opened their doors, and it is fabulous. Great. Best coffee.
Awesome. I told the people the last couple of weeks that I am not big on the type of coffee, mainly because I use about half a cup of coconut cream creamer and about half a cup of coffee. So
you like a little
yeah. Exactly. We're gonna have to get some stuff from Bruja and try it out. So Rae, tell us a little bit about SandCille for anybody that doesn't know. What do you do there? What is your focus? Just give us a little bit of info about SandCille.
So SandCille Spa is located in the Colony Plaza on West 8th Street. We are a standalone spa. We don't do hair. I like to say we do all the good stuff. We do massage and facials and nails, manis and petties, and then waxing. Everything generally is very relaxing and gets you out of your life for an hour of being cared for. The waxing, everyone knows it's going to hurt. So we're kind of on an even playing field there. And then, of course, we do incredible eyelash extensions, which I think you know about, maybe. Not personally.
I do.
Yeah.
I not personally. Thank you for clarifying, but my wife does love. Addiction is probably too strong of a word, but she enjoys the eyelash extensions. And we were talking before we went live that I thought that she might lose her mind a little bit the first couple weeks when she wasn't able to get those fixed. So
yeah. they're a great way for a woman to look done, but not really have to do anything. I generally, just out of a lack of time, I get them done before vacation. I don't usually keep them up regularly, but they're wonderful. Yeah, nice thing.
Yeah, yeah, cool. So let's jump into a couple questions here that I have for you, and then we'll take some questions if we have any from the Facebook audience. So, so the first question for you: there's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. There's especially a lot of uncertainty in business. How are you leading your team through all of this uncertainty? That's something that I'm fascinated by, is how do you as a leader lead through this when there's so much uncertainty for the leader as well?
Yeah. Well, initially I spent time just trying to reach out to everyone on an individual basis, check in with them, see how they were doing. I shared all of the information that I could find on how to file for unemployment. My biggest fear in having, right now I have 11, sometimes I have 14 employees, so that's the general range. That's a lot of people to have a business shut down and they suddenly don't have a job. So I tried to make sure and help them with the links and telling them what to do and getting them to talk to each other about what their experience was filing for unemployment. And then I really just spent those first, I think we're in week 7 here, the first like 4 or 5 weeks, just reaching out to them, seeing how they were doing, letting them know that everything, the business is still there. We're okay. We just need to get through this. And at about the midway point or just a little after it, I sent, and once we started hearing there was this potential that we may get to open, I sent out an email gauging their comfort level in returning to work, because this is, I know that there are other people who were just like, when this opens, this is what we're doing. And I really felt that it was important for me to touch base with them and see where they were. The one thing that I've taken from this whole experience is it's extremely personal for each of us. We each wrapped our head around what exactly was happening and how seriously we were taking it. And it's a very personal journey. It was interesting reaching out to my employees and having them respond to me with an email. Every single one of them, I could rank on a scale from 1 being absolutely unafraid and ready to come back, and 10 being fearful. And they were all somewhere different in that scale. So I think it was important that they knew that, I wasn't just like, okay, here's when we're coming back. I tried to talk to them a little bit. Then I sent an email back to them addressing some concerns that they had. And, again, I just every week, at least 2 or 3 of them, I text and see how they're doing or speak to them on the phone.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you're doing something that we've talked about before, but it's that communication, right? Like the uncertainty might be there, but even communicating with people through uncertainty and actually listening with empathy to what they have to say is, I mean, it's just such a valuable leadership trait. So good job on that.
Thank you. And thank you for saying you respected me. That means a lot to me.
I have a ton of respect for you, Rae. All right. All right, John, what do we got next? Okay, second question. How are you communicating with your customers? So you talked a lot about how you're communicating with your team, which is so valuable. Then on the other, so that's internal facing, right? On the other side of things, how are you then communicating with your customers? Everybody from the loyal customers that have been with you for years to the customer that showed up once and now wants to come back and can't.
So right out of the gates, we did an email out to everyone. Again, just wishing them well, hoping they're safe, letting them know that we're here. We initially had to, of course, we're a service-based, appointment-based business. So we had to go through and pull appointments as this, initially it was like, okay, you're going to be closed for 2 weeks. And then it turned into more. So our initial response was we called all of these clients. I have a wonderful manager, Elena Chiesa, who works for me. And she's really been a huge partner for me through this. She met with me. We went down to the spa. We called every client personally. Some people we were on the phone with for 5 minutes. Some people were like, okay, great. Well, I can't wait to hear from you when you open back up. So we talked and reached out to them personally. As we moved into that longer shutdown period and had to remove 6 weeks of appointments. Then we did another email, and again, Elena is wonderful in her ability to communicate on Instagram and Facebook. We came up with some great ideas. A lot of them initiated by her. We have been doing personal videos. The clients have these incredible relationships with my service technicians, and they miss each other. So my service technicians we did home videos. I did one, and we all expressed whatever was important to us. And then we've used those to communicate with our clients on Instagram. And that's been fantastic. And then again, I have another email that's ready to go out and really trying to answer any questions that people are posing to us through Messenger on Facebook.
And I can say with my wife being a customer, she valued getting a phone call from a business saying, hey, I know you were supposed to show up. This is what's going on. And now, we're going to do our best to communicate with you. Just, it makes the customers feel so valued, which again is something I think you do so well. And a lot of businesses are doing it okay, but I think there's always that deeper level of commitment and care you can have for your customers. So that kind of stuff, it makes your customers know that you value them. And it's one of those things it's simple in the sense of just making a phone call, but it's difficult when you have to call so many people and give them not great news, right?
Yeah.
So it's yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you the one thing I recommend for every business owner to do. I went in and pulled a list of my very regular customers, and this was probably in week 3, week 4, and week 5. And I need to go back in and do it again. And I called them and said, hi, this is Rae. I'm just calling to see how you're doing. And, how are you feeling about this? And some people I was on the phone with for, just a couple minutes. They were thrilled to get the phone call. And there were a few people I spent 15 minutes on the phone, talking about what their perspective was on this whole thing and how they were feeling. And, really had nothing to do with canceling an appointment, but more just checking in with them. Especially, I'm sure everybody at some level in their business knows of a couple people who might be at home alone, and that might make their entire day just talking to someone for 15 minutes. And so I've been trying to do that. And, sometimes I've gotten through 5 people in an hour, and sometimes I've gotten through 15. But I highly recommend that for anybody who has a business right now.
Yeah. Again, just the idea that you're not, and this is a huge mistake that I see businesses making right now. Business owners are scared and they need to make money, right? But you're not calling them and saying, hey, how are you doing? With the intention of saying, by the way, why don't you go buy this thing from us, right? Because people know what they'll find out what you have to offer them if you're communicating that well too. But just caring about people, right? Like that's what's missing from so many businesses is just that genuine care for the person on the other side, because we get worried and we sell too much. Okay, let's move on. So what are you doing now to prepare your business for when the ban is lifted? So again, we have time now, right? Like that's the thing that most of us have that we didn't have for years. We have time. How are you using that time and energy to think about what the business is going to look like when this ban is lifted?
So my whole business, this is a very interesting question, right? And you can take a lot of different angles on this. For me, I stood back and I said, what's my whole business about? It's really about providing an atmosphere, an environment that is relaxing. And we are now in a time where we're kind of have been, inundated with reasons to be afraid to leave our house. which is, I've got to overcome that. So I have really done tons and tons of research on the CDC rules, the different things that you can do, the different kinds of products, everything I could do to make my environment, which, we already have a reputation for being the cleanest place in Erie. We go over and above state standards, and, we're a little more expensive because of that, because of the products that we use and the different procedures that we do. But I really took that to the highest level I possibly could. We have bought room dividers for in between each of our manicure stations. We have spent a ton of money in sanitizers. I've got medical grade cleansers, the same ones that you would find at St. Vincent Hospital, or the soaps and the sanitizing products that we're going to be using. I bought shields for all of my employees. We've done, they're saying that anything that can make you feel more comfortable. So like, we're going to take the temperature with a touchless thermometer of each employee and each client that comes through the door, just to give that added layer of feeling of safety. I own a share in vinyl gloves right now. I'm pretty sure we've got a closet stacked full of them. We are just, like you said, we are trying to take every precaution. One of the things that I'm fortunate about is we have an air filtration system built into the spa that I can turn up to 100%. So it's constantly filtering the air in the spa, which I think, people, and then just being able to communicate that to all of our clients as they come in through the door, and not forgetting my employees. My employees are the ones who are, coming to the front line to be the warriors in this war and work with the public. And so I've got to make sure that they are protected. I think that the two places that we're going to be most vulnerable as an employee doing a service with somebody in this situation will be our facials, because you're going to have a person who is not covered. So I have, purchased smocks for them to wear that can come off. So they'll have be able to change their outer layer of clothing for each client, and this shield that they're going to be able to wear so that they're really separated from that person's, air path, which is going to be right in front of them. And also the manicures, right? They're going to be working with hands. So we have all of these different layers of protection that we've created between, they have to clean their hands when they sit down, everybody's wearing gloves. And, I think the biggest thing that's going to be hard for my clients is, no phones when you're in my place, because, the second you wash your hands and then go back on your phone, unless it's just been sanitized, which is very, it's hard to clean the phones really good. You're totally exposing yourself again to whatever you had before you washed your hands. So there's a lot of little things like that we've thought through, and I think it's going to be a really good environment for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's such a great example of servant leadership, where everything that you talked about was talking about serving your customers and serving your employees. Such a great example of that. So that's awesome. All right, let's jump into let's see if there's any questions from the Facebook live chat here. If you have questions, put them in the live chat. Sean, you wanna come back and join us there, my friend?
Oh,
there he is.
Anytime to hear the sound of my own voice, right? All right. So one of the questions that we have is like, what is one thing small businesses should be doing but aren't?
That's for me, huh? I think taking advantage of the time is, it's really easy when you don't know when the start date is. I mean, it could be 2 weeks away, and I found myself falling into this trap a little bit. It could be 2 weeks away. It could be 6 weeks away. We've already gone through 7 weeks, and I'm still looking at my employee manual that I've been sitting on for a year going, boy, I really need to update this, and going, oh yeah, I can do this next week. I can do this next week. I think it's really making a list for yourself, prioritizing, getting those things done that you haven't had time for. While I have been able to get a lot of stuff done, it's funny, you figure out which things really, it wasn't because you couldn't prioritize it, it was because you really just didn't want to do it. So I think staying focused and, having a list you check off, and getting some of that stuff done that you haven't done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like Parkinson's law is still true in the middle of a pandemic. So any task you have to do will fill the time that you have to do it. And right now, if you don't put an end date on something, it's still going to take just as much time as it did when we were super busy, right? Because it's like you said, it's a matter of priority. And so how do you add that false sense of urgency to get things done that you really don't feel like doing, but are important? So for me, I mean, I think one of the things that small businesses should be doing way more of, and people are going to hopefully they'll get tired of hearing me say this, is they need to be creating more content online and staying top of mind for people, so that when people are able, oh, we have a visitor. when people are able to go back and visit places, that you want to be top of mind, right? You want to know, like, all the things that you're doing behind the scenes, Rae. If you don't tell people that, they're not going to know, right? So like all the extensive measures that you're going to make sure it's clean and safe for your employees and for your customers, it's great to do that. But if you never say that you're doing it, then when the doors open, now it's like nobody knows that that's been done, right? And just that over communication of what's going on with your business, I think is critically important right now.
I agree.
All right. What else we have, Sean? I see Justin Grubbs. I think he's still with us. I know he has questions.
So that's what
there's no doubt that Justin Grubbs has a question in that mind of his.
Well, he said something that was interesting, and I honestly hadn't really thought about kind of the mental side of this. So I'm going to pull up the comment. He said it was hard to accept the label of non-essential. And I think that's such a tricky thing right now, because like, I can't imagine, I'm not a business owner, so it's hard for me to imagine this, but when I have employees that work for me that rely on income, how to accept that label as non-essential, that has to be a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Can we talk about bad branding and marketing for a minute? Because whoever chose the words non-essential to be the definition of whether a business should be open or not, that's really bad marketing. But it is tough because there are a lot of, like you said, there are businesses that they have employees, and that money, that income is what they're using to feed their families. And now they're hearing these words that are essentially, you're not important enough right now that you could be running your business or going to work. And that's a tough thing. Is that something that you thought about or struggled with at all, Rae?
Yeah, that was a kick in the gut. I mean, we work really hard. It's to hear your government define businesses in that light was it again, just really bad word choice. I wish that, and I also I think that it's going to shape the future of how people choose what they do as well. Because I think it's gonna change the focus in our educational institutions by defining something as essential or non-essential. I think the kids who are growing up in this might be making job choices based on that wording. So, but personally, we, it's hard. I don't know that it really affected me and made me feel like we were less valued. I know there's a lot of people who can't wait to get a massage after all this is over. And and that the big thing for us, I think for myself and my employees, is that not to take that personally. It wasn't driven as a personal thing, but I think that it gives us an opportunity to work really hard when we come back to remind people just exactly how valuable we are to them, and that what we do does improve the quality of their life.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely.
That's good.
There's another point I want to touch on here, because I feel like a lot of people that I'm hearing talk about this is they're thinking about how to prepare their business for the next pandemic. They're preparing their business for the next time that the government defines these same non-essential businesses. And Rae, you hit on it when you're saying like kids are going to be making job choices based on this. But to me, this is a much bigger issue than that. It's like, we don't know what the next thing is going to be, or if there's going to be a next thing that shuts down a bunch of businesses, but it could go completely the opposite way, right? Like, what happens if the grocery stores are the ones that are shut down next time? Because we didn't foresee this, we're not going to foresee the next thing. So really, to me, it's about being resourceful in the moment, because the solutions that you find to the current problem, they're not going to be the same solutions that likely not going to be the same solutions that you need when the next problem hits, whatever that might be, right? And so it's really about, in the moment, the business owners and the leaders that are able to be resourceful and keep their mind straight about how to be solution minded and get through this. It's that underlying skill set that I think we need to work on, not like, how do we prepare for the next pandemic? Because I just think that's too small of a thought process to be able to truly run a business successfully going into the future. We don't know what the next thing is going to be, the next hurdle is going to be.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely true, Josh.
What else do we have, Sean?
Yeah. How about?
Do we have any other questions? Nobody has a question for us today?
No, they're not.
I find that hard to believe.
We have a lot of comments coming through, and I'm like paying more attention to the comments, because they're a lot of people are really resonating, and I resonated with this too. Just like, I really started to perk up, Rae, when you talked about like, these are all the things that we're thinking through in terms of how to prepare for our clients to feel safe coming back to the business. And we're getting quite a few comments of like, yeah, like just hearing that alone makes me want to come like patronize your store. And so it's really interesting to see like that simple, which is probably something that's very natural for you to think about in a very unnatural time, is the safety and the care of your clients. But I think there's such a depravity of that right now, that when you start talking about those things, everyone just kind of like, yes, I'm like in for this. And so it's really interesting to see how that's playing out. But
so
we do have
I see a couple. Yes.
Sorry, go ahead, Josh. Go ahead.
So there's two questions there, Sean. I was just going to say, there's Jelana and Ann, thank you very much for the questions. We're close to running up against time here. So can we jump to Ann's, simply because that's specifically a question to Rae? So can we jump to that one to make sure Ann can get an answer from Rae here?
Yeah, I think perfect. Josh, you take it away.
Okay, so Ann Tanel, thanks Ann for the question. It says, I have the same anxieties for my employees when we return to workshops. So Ann, again, is the owner of Board and Brush. So similar idea, where people have to show up to get the experience, right? I have the same anxieties for my employees when we return to workshops. There's a hard division between keeping my employees safe while providing a warm, welcoming feeling. Can you talk about that? So how do you make it warm and welcoming while also making sure that, both sides are staying safe?
Yeah. I think that is going to be the toughest thing for us. Anyone who has an environment-based business like SandCille and like Board and Brush, I think that the safer you can make the employees feel, then that's going to exude from them and resonate through to the clients. So I think you have to ask your employees how they're feeling and address their concerns specifically, and get them, to feel comfortable where you are. And again, I think that once they're comfortable, that's going to resonate through to the clientele. And also letting the clientele know what you have done to make them safe. So like, just, it would be really easy for me to take a disinfectant bottle and, cotton wipes and keep them behind the front desk. And then after someone comes through, wipe everything down. We're going to be doing that out. We're putting stations around the spa so that they can see that it's there and that it, I think seeing that visually and knowing, oh, look, they have all these cleaning stations up. And then, we've done the plexiglass dividers in places that are appropriate. Letting people actually visually see and understand what's happening, I think is also key. It's not, like you said, Josh, you need to communicate with everyone and let them know what you're doing. And that's the biggest thing I would say to Ann is, anything you can do to show and tell and let people experience what's happening for cleaning is going to really help in this situation.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Rae, because I think it's hard for your customers to be fearful and cozy at the same time. So if you can take away some of that anxiety that they have and let them see, like, these are all the things we're doing to make sure you're safe, so you don't have to worry about that while you're here. Now you can start to ease back in. And that, combined with the employees just exuding that confidence and joy and all the things they normally do, that, I think those two things, that's a brilliant way to go about it. And on the, it works on the flip side too, is if the business owner comes across as afraid and the employees come across as afraid, it's going to be impossible to build that warm, comfortable environment, because people are going to feel that, right? Like, they're going to feel the leadership of the employees and ultimately the business owner when they walk into a business.
Yeah. And this, I think, is really going to be a big factor as we go back to business as well. If you've been going to a place that generally hasn't been clean before now, I think it's probably pretty safe to make the assumption that they're probably not going to be super clean after this. You have to make a good choice as a consumer to go to a place that is going to take that step in sanitation and going to be consistent with it and going to really make sure that anything that happens, I look at it as, there's potential that something could come into the spa. How are we going to contain that and clean that and keep us safe? I think there's two ways to look at it. Can I keep everything out? And we chose to kind of take the look at, the potential is that it's going to come in. What can I do to keep everyone safe from that?
That's really good.
Yep. Yeah. And this is just again, even though there's a lot of fear and uncertainty now, the businesses that have been doing things the right way are going to continue to do things the right way, and they'll be fine. And the businesses that have been doing things the wrong way, they're going to have a really difficult time coming out on the other side of this. It's just the reality that this pandemic is almost like a filter for small businesses, right? The good ones that have been really serving people well and been empathetic and really thinking strategically about their business, they're going to make it. And the ones that have just been kind of, living the high life based on a really good economy and not serving people well and providing a mediocre service, they're going to struggle if they even make it on the other side. So, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah. So we have a couple more really good questions. Since we have Rae here, do we have time for one or two?
Sure. Rae, do you have?
Let me check my schedule.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Let's hop to Jelana's question. I think, Jelana, I apologize. I'm not sure that I fully understand the question, but I think she's trying to get at, there may come a critical point when businesses have to think about maybe no longer being able, opening once this is all over. And so, what kind of encouragement can you offer a business owner in terms of, she says, phasing out or preparing for reopening.
Right.
And so, can you speak?
And feel free, Jelana, if we missed the ball on that one, Jelana, feel free to clarify for us. So yeah, Rae, what do you think about that? Some businesses that do have to phase out versus prepare for reopening. How do you, if you have a lot of local business owners know other local business owners. So if you have a friend that's in that place, how do you kind of encourage them through that?
I think that this is, again, we are dealing with something that is completely new. It's a brand new thing. I'm a big researcher. I don't believe that you need to reinvent the wheel all the time. A lot of times when I have questions in my business, I do research to see how successful businesses have handled whatever the issue might be. We don't have that now. I actually had this conversation a couple times over the last couple weeks with, this is, if you were, owning a business is a lot of work. It's really hard. And, this could be an opportunity for someone to take this as an exit strategy. If they find themselves in a situation, maybe you can enter the workforce somewhere and work for someone else, and it's a time to exit from your business. I personally think that needs to be a plan. I think that you need to say to yourself, sit down with a calendar for the next 6 months and say, very rationally, pull the emotion out of it. If this happens, then this is what we're going to do. If this happens, this is what we're going to do. So, and maybe it's numbers based. If my bank account gets to this point, then this is when I'm going to send letters that, maybe we're going to start to exit the business or exit the market. I don't think that should be an emotionally based decision. This has been extremely trying on my psyche over the last 7 weeks. I've sent text messages to friends saying, that's it, I'm done, and you can't be an emotionally based business or a emotionally based decision. So my suggestion would be, and I'll be honest with you, I'm working on that right now because I don't want my business to close. It's not something that I would ever want to happen, but you have to be rational and say, well, just how far can I go in debt or can I allow things to go based on your numbers and know at what point am I in too far and this becomes a huge liability for me and my family. So I think you have to lay out a plan and say, this is, and then, with your partner or your friends, whoever it is you talk to, go over it with a professional and say, does this make sense? And then commit to it.
Yeah, so that's I love that. To further clarify Jelana's, I think she was talking about like if you're not explicitly listed in like the yellow phase of reopening.
Okay.
How can you? We went back and clarified a little bit. How can you prepare to make the decision on when to reopen? So, like, maybe I can reopen now. Maybe I have to wait a little longer. Can you speak to that at all?
I can. Sorry for that confusion. I hope that helps anybody else who's thinking about whether they should stay open or not.
Very, very helpful.
I think that, so this is interesting. So I have, a couple of my employees, and I try to handle my business like we're a team. I really listen to what my employees have to say. And so a couple of them are concerned about, well, if they say the opening date is May 8th, maybe we should wait a couple weeks. There's a huge,
right.
You have to, I wish it was just that easy. I wish you could just say, well, yeah, we're going to open on this date, or we're not going to, we're going to wait a couple weeks. What I'm doing is I'm really taking a look at some of the other states that are opening early. Georgia, Texas, Colorado, the different states that are allowing the people in my industry to open up. And I'm going to watch and see what happens with that. Is there an outbreak? Are there problems? What happens there? And then that will help me gain research information to make a good choice for us. You have to also consider your numbers. This is so different than anything we've ever experienced that I don't know that there's a clear-cut response to that answer. But I really think that you have to pay attention to what's happening in the places that are opening to be able to make a good decision about whether or not you open on that date or you wait a little while. And I think you also have to consider what's happening here in Erie County. I mean, I think Erie County has done a fabulous job of staying inside. We are not seeing these crushing numbers. I've spoken with multiple doctors in the area who have really reassured me in feeling that it would be like, you'd have to have 10,000 people from Pittsburgh come up to Erie on a day to potentially create a spread that is really going to make us take a huge step backward here in Erie County, because we've done a really good job containing this virus. So I think between those two things, watching what's happening here in Erie County, and then really watching these, whatever your industry is, watching what's happening in those other places, and then making a decision for what's right for your employees.
That's good.
Yep. Yeah, good stuff.
All right, one more, and it's a really good question because I think it's going to be a lot that people are facing. This one comes from Justin.
Yeah.
If someone were in the middle of transitioning from employee to self-employed during the crisis, what are some actionable tips to help establish yourself in the market and to make yourself known? That is a great.
Justin, I knew you had a good question in you. Thank you. To me, the answer to this question is the same regardless of whether we're in the middle of a pandemic or not. I would just, it's about getting your message out there. There's the difference now between, 6 months ago and now in the middle of a pandemic is I don't believe you when you tell me you don't have time. That's the only difference. Before I might believe you. Now I don't believe you. You're watching too much Netflix if you're not doing this, but you should be creating, like for Justin, if you're going to self-employed now, if you're in the B2C space, so business to consumer space, you should be posting on Facebook and Instagram 25 times a day. And if you're going in the B2B space, so you're going to LinkedIn, you should be posting on LinkedIn 25 times a day. And I don't mean always just like creating a new post. I mean commenting on other posts. Because if you were able to spend 8 hours at a job and now you're not spending 8 hours on that job anymore, in theory, and I know this is a little extreme, but in theory, you have 8 hours to create content and message people on social media, right? And the reality is no one is doing that. Most people are not doing it for 2 hours a day. So they replace their 8-hour job with 6 hours or 7 hours or 7.5 hours of entertainment. And so they only have an hour or 2 hours to do business stuff. That if you're transitioning from being an employee to being a business owner, and that's where your mindset is, you got to fix that first. Because the reality is, if you're going to try to do your own thing, you're going to try to be self-employed, and you're not willing to make tough decisions when it comes to watching TV versus creating content, then I think you should reconsider that transition at this moment. But it's really about just creating content. If you don't, and people always say, I don't know what content to create. Fine. Go and comment on other people's posts, ask them questions, interact with them. That's how you gain knowledge. But at the same time as you're gaining knowledge, you're gaining exposure, right? So you can go in and ask questions, you can comment on posts, and that will lead you to, oh my gosh, I have an idea about my space. I'm going to go post it. The reality with most people is not that they don't know what to post. They're afraid to post something and sound dumb, right? Like we post these videos every week online, and I don't go back and watch them the majority of the time because I know when I do, I'm going to look at something I said. I'm going to be like, that was so dumb. Why did I say that? And then it's going to make me more hesitant when I go to post the one next week. But it doesn't matter. I'm putting content into the world, right? We're getting feedback saying it's valuable. You will do the same thing, but you have to produce that content. So when you're going from being employed to being self-employed, whether it's in the middle of a pandemic or not, create content about that industry you're going into. Either create it, organically, or comment on other people's posts in that industry. There's no reason that you can't be doing that for a couple hours a day. I don't buy your excuses anymore.
Yeah, I think people have to acknowledge that there are going to be, whenever restrictions are starting to be lifted, there are going to be kind of these early adopter people who are very ready to get back into kind of normal life, whatever that looks like. And so the more that you can stay top of mind, the more likely you are to kind of grab those people who are in a rush to kind of get back, and take advantage of that. Like find those early kind of adopter people and see if you can get them engaged in your business and allow them to kind of lead a trend towards adopting whatever kind of your business is putting forward. But you can't do that if you aren't becoming top of mind right now.
Yeah. One of the hardest things when you're going to self-employed, starting a business, whatever it might be, is that you're unknown, right? Yep. And nobody's going to buy from someone that they don't know. And the way that you become known is you put your comments and your posts everywhere. The advantage that we have now is you can do all of that for free. You can post on Instagram, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. They don't have a limit. It's not like once you post 3 times today, now we're going to charge you for the 4th one. You can post as many times as you want for free. Okay. Now the question is, are you going to do it? Right. That's all it is. And that's how you become known in the space. And some people don't know you and they'll be like, I'm never buying from that guy. And that's fine, because there's also going to be people completely on the other end that say, I know you, and now you're going to be my first resource for this. Right. I'm sure there are people that look at SandCille and say, I'm never going there. And that's fine, because there are also a ton of people that are saying, I'm never going anywhere else. Because Rae has carved out, she said it earlier, they're not the cheapest date in town because they are doing things differently for very good reason. And everybody that wants that, they don't have anywhere else to go. They're going to SandCille. That's it. So that's that's my take on it. Justin, feel free to add your take as well, Rae.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be a daunting task to consider opening a business right after this, but I think it would be a really smart thing to do, because I think you're going to see the landscape of businesses really, really changed when and I think it's every week that this goes on, you're going to see even more of that landscape changed and chipped away at. Boy, to be looking at starting something that is really client centric, that can be done without a brick and mortar, I think this is the time to really figure those businesses out. Take advantage of this time at home and go for it. I mean, the market is wide open for you right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's good.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Well, we went way over.
Yeah.
So Rae, thank you so much again. I mean, you provided a lot of insight, coming from a different industry, and just how you're thinking about it. Your leadership, I'm sure, is inspiring both to employees, to see your customers, seeing how you're handling everything, and hopefully some of the people on the live stream here today as well. I'm sure they got value out of it. But so thank you for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rae.
Good morning. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're gonna, again, if you guys want the show notes, if you're missing some of the shows, you're not able to make it at 9 a.m. because everybody's super busy right now, then sign up for the email, ghostcreative.com/live. We send an email Monday morning. It will include the links to the shows from the prior week and what's coming up next week. So Tuesday, we're going to be talking about, it's topical. What was Tuesday's topic? I can't remember off the top of my head. So sign up for the email list and you'll find out. So Tuesday will be topical, and then, oh yes, Tuesday. I should have remembered that. I just looked at it before the show. So we're going to be talking about comparing platforms. So Justin, we just told everybody to post all the time. We're going to be talking about what platforms you should be spending your time on, depending on what the intention of your business is. This is something we get all the time. Most people spend the time on the platform that they like the most. Well, if you're a business owner, sometimes you have to do things you don't like because it's most beneficial to your business and your clients. So we're going to talk about what platforms you should be using. And then we will have another guest next Friday. So this was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we will see you on Tuesday at 9 a.m.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.